Hey, so thanks everyone today for joining us for our March ARC monthly update. We got a special guest with us today. We have our own domestic operations manager, Tom Morgenstern, on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Tom, so since it's your first time, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. Tell everybody something about us that we might not know.
About you or about me?
About you.
About me.
Yeah.
All right. Something about me that people may not know. People may not know that I achieved my Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout.
Yeah, before the age of 18,
Wow.
actually. So I was in Scouts for like 7 years.
Wow, impressive. So if we get lost in a forest in the jungle or something like that,
The hope is I
we're
will
with
remember
you.
everything and be able to get us out. Yes.
awesome. We also have Andrew joining us remote again this month. Andrew, how you doing?
Good. How about you guys? Everything going well?
Yeah, we're doing well.
Going well.
Excellent.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Super pumped that everyone now knows that Tom is an Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should include that in his signature moving forward in every single email. Tom, aka Eagle Scout Morgenstern.
Hey, the motto is be prepared. That's the thing. I'm always prepared for any situation.
I'm pretty sure if I was an Eagle Scout, I would have a T-shirt that just says I'm an Eagle Scout, and I would wear it every day.
I don't have that. But if
Or-
you want
or a
to make
leather
me
jacket
one,
with
if you want to
something
make me
embroidered
one
on
and
the
give me
back.
one, I'll wear it.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, so let's move into some industry news for the month of March. And this month, we're going to be talking trade shows.
Trade shows.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank God we're talking trade shows again.
Yeah, finally. So we had kind of some big news come out this month in the trade show world. So we want to really take this opportunity to talk about this and the impacts it's going to have in shipping and trade show shipping, what we think this year. But a couple notable things this month, actually, Las Vegas just recently took down some of their COVID restrictions for convention centers. Now they're allowing 50% capacity in convention centers. And obviously, you guys know this, but I mean, Las Vegas is one of the trade show capitals of the world.
Yeah.
So this is a very big deal, letting people back into shows and in-person shows being able to be scheduled again.
Yeah, it's huge for the industry, for sure. I mean, that and Orlando, two of the main like hubs for trade shows, and allowing capacity, allowing shows to continue to happen and come back is going to be big. And it's a big impact to just society in general and our industry, for sure.
Yeah, we actually have the World of Concrete show that's scheduled in early June. There's another one, MRO Americas, and they're doing a hybrid show. So you can actually go in person or you could still do it virtually. So, they're adapting, but it's good to see some people being able to be let back in.
Yeah, I'm super excited because we've had so many good calls recently with either, just old friends that are in the industry, customers. It's been really good to hear the stories that they're going on sales calls again. They're getting out there, they're shaking hands, kissing babies, obviously with COVID restrictions, they're doing all those good things, which is positive because that means that, the consumer confidence is back. I was at the Phoenix International Airport recently, and it is packed again. Like it looks like everybody's kind of getting in the mode of being able to travel, and it's just a positive to see that there is confidence again in terms of being able to still travel and move around comfortably, and with obviously still the restrictions in place to make sure that we're not spreading disease, but doing so in a manner that is responsible, which is a huge positive for us. So very, very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in Orlando, I think last month, one of the taxi drivers, they completely were missing the entire industry of people coming to shows. That was what lived on, or they lived on and down there, and like all the hotels, and everybody's like missing out on that. And it's a needed part of our society, I think, and it's a forgotten. It's been gone for like over a year now, which is crazy to think about. And that we haven't sent anything or talked about trade shows in that much time.
Just to put a bow on it, all the people that travel to trade shows for like that's their living.
Yeah,
they've been pacing the halls at their home for like 365 days.
Yeah.
All the men and women of the trade show world ready to get back at it and start doing it. So
and I mean, example is like Zoom. It's great, but it's not the same thing in this industry, in this business of face-to-face conversation and just being able to show your products in a tangible way. That's what a trade show is needed for.
definitely.
Yeah.
And on a big picture, actually last month there was a bill that passed the U.S. Senate floor called the Hospitality and Commerce Job Recovery Act. And so what it's going to do is give tax incentives and help re-implement meetings for the event industry. So again, if that passes, that'll be another big win to help get the industry back up and going again.
Well, that's excellent. I'd love to see how it helps the small businesses. Because obviously there's a food chain, right? There's a big guys who are putting on these shows, and it trickles down to a lot of small businesses who might have 150, anywhere between 15 and 150 employees that really this hit really hard, both at the restaurants, tax, everybody got absolutely hammered by it. So that's great to hear, and see if it gets through. Yeah, it's awesome.
So Andrew, could you tell us how LTL is actually used in trade show logistics? Oh,
sure. Yeah. I mean, when you look at how the LTL carrier networks are set up, you have predominantly their carrier services networks are set up for pre and post show freight movement. And in the industry term is advanced warehouses. So if you're part of the industry, you've obviously heard the term advanced warehouses, but this is really where the freight comes into as a consolidation point to go on to the actual trade show floor, and actually how the freight will come out of it based on how you as the exhibitor is moving your freight in and out.
All right. Thanks, Andrew, for that information. So let's talk about the current state of LTL. I think when you guys talk about advanced warehouses, I think of, space. And I think of a lot of show freight coming in the space. Well, I know right now in LTL, there is a huge capacity crunch. And so how is this going to impact if LTL terminals have no space? How is this going to impact a shipper that's trying to get their freight into a show?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the question of the day right now is how will it affect. And, Andrew talked about World of Concrete being one of the largest shows in America. So when it's one of the largest shows in America, that's a lot of space, like you were just saying, in the local terminals for these LTL carriers. And with so much freight backed up in a crunch, they're running out of space. So it's either other LTL carriers have got to come on to be able to take on that space, or you got to find other ways. And I think we're running into that bigger picture of like there has to be another way for us to get our freight in and out of these networks, because we just don't have enough space for it.
And that's one of the interesting things about how ourselves and a lot of our customer partners have done moving in and out of trade shows, where our reliance on LTL in regards to trade show is zero. We move no trade show freight in on LTL carriers for all the freight and trade show movements we do, because first off, there's a level of care there that we demand when we select partners to move freight, especially trade show freight. I can't tell you how many times I've been on calls with people where, the LTL company promised them something and then delivered something vastly different. And it cost a lot in terms of not just monetary. Monetary is one thing that, you can always overcome a monetary issue in the trade show space, just like any other event space or live event space, where your reputation is on the line every single time you go up to bat. You can't risk the freight showing up damaged or not on time without somebody there trying to, help you along the way with transparency. So we've always stayed away from LTL, but we realize some customers of ours and some customers that are not ours yet have utilized LTL in the past, because it is, it's very easy for them to just check the box on the form that they get from the exhibiting company. But with what we're facing today, with the economy and the marketplace we're facing today in the LTL world, I think it's critical that they have the information just so that they can make a decision with their eyes wide open. Mm-hmm. Not that their decision necessarily needs to change. They can still use LTL. And I'm sure LTL is trying to figure out how to address this issue, because it's going to become a major issue. We've talked about, the capacity crunch for months, right? You've got a capacity crunch when it comes to the drivers. Now we even have equipment crunches, mm-hmm. right? And then on the docks. So if the trade show facilities are limited to 50%, a lot of these docks aren't back up to 100% staffing, because they have to maintain certain distancing. So we're seeing that COVID is still impacting how many people can be working in a closed confined space. And when you start thinking about, okay, how are the trade shows I&D people going to be doing this? What are the docs at trade shows? Because for a lot of our audience who've walked trade shows floors, they know it's just a madhouse. They know there are just a lot of bodies around with a lot of machinery and a lot of crates and skids. What does that look like in a COVID world and then a post-COVID world for how these LTL companies are going to have to operate? So,
yeah, I mean, touching on that, I think you could see deadlines and timelines like increase where you
for sure
you may have like in the years past it may be you got to get it to the advanced warehouse a week. Now it may be 3 weeks because of knowing that how long it's going to take to go through their network and the lack of employees on their docks and all that kind of stuff. So as the trade show houses, the local trade show houses that are building all this stuff, they're already in less capacity of people. And so it's going to take them longer to build, but they have to get it ready sooner potentially. There's going to be a huge influx of that going on in this industry.
Well, I got a question for you guys. UPS recently sold their LTL services. We know that they did show freight. Mm-hmm. We know other carriers are doing massive hiring blitzes because, like you said, Andrew, there's just a huge shortage. We know that customers have talked to certain carriers that have freight and basically we're told we're not interested in moving your freight right now. Is there a chance any of these LTL carriers are not going to jump back into trade show shipping this fall because of their capacity?
Well, I mean, I guess UPS for sure. Like they got rid of it. I would say I think that people are going to be more selective for sure. The companies are going to say, is it worth it at this point? I mean, the normal ones that are in the industry, YRC, they're going to be pretty consistent in it because they've built entire departments around it. So they're going to still work and have these partnerships with the Freemans, the GESs. And so it could be different though. We don't know what it's going to look like when it comes to that. I don't know, Andrew, you want to touch on that too?
Yeah, I think that there will be because it's lucrative freight, right? So as an LTL person, am I going to move a skid of bolts that's locked in at this rate, or am I going to move something that can produce more revenue for us as a company?
Yeah.
So I think your LTL companies will figure out a way to still accept the freight, and accepting the freight isn't the battle isn't necessarily what we're concerned about. I think the bigger thing is, can they deliver on the commitment and the promise they made? And that's where I get nervous when people choose LTL companies, is because the sales rep can make one promise, but there's an entire network built around almost the opposite of that promise when you look at on-time commitment and all the stuff that's required for trade shows. So, we did a lot of talking about advanced warehouses. One of the things that we do in many cases is we go right to the show site. So we bypass the advanced warehouse. We go and deliver right to the show site, because what this does is this prevents, first off, 3 or 4 more touches of your freight. So it reduces handling, meaning you're not dropping off at the advanced warehouse. They're not moving it around, loading it on a preload. That preload then sits in the yard. That preload then might be brought back to the dock, reworked, and then sent ultimately to the trade show. All those times your freight's getting moved in and out. So we understand that trade show freight usually has some component to it that's more delicate. So we always prefer to deliver right to the trade show, where the cost of moving it might be slightly higher, but ultimately the benefits outweigh the risk. So as a transportation company, as a logistics company, risk mitigation is kind of the cornerstone of how we have to think for our customers. Especially when you start looking at live events and trade shows. And so we move it in a way that mitigates risk as great as possible. And then on the other side of it, the cost at the end of the day, because you're not moving, you don't have advanced warehouse costs and those types of things, usually ends up being very, very similar at the end of the day. So we've always chosen to go direct to the show, which would circumvent these concerns, because the show sites are still going to have the guys with the forklifts pulling stuff off the dock. Mm-hmm. You're just going to bypass the advanced warehouse in and out of a show, preventing that lockup or that grind up or lockup of goods. Additionally, the time window that Tom said we could see happen, where advanced warehouses say, okay, the deadlines are now, as opposed to a week before the show, they're now 3 weeks before the show, so that we have all the the timing needed for the personnel and everything, going to the show is going to be the same still. So you as a production manager at your trade show and live events exhibit house, you can still base it off of how you used to build things, as opposed to trying to now fit inside whatever the model is that comes out of the post-COVID world for these advanced warehouses.
Mm-hmm. Like another thing is like decorators in the industry, they've laid people off during this past year, and then they don't know when they're going to bring them back. They don't know how many shows technically are going to be coming back, so they don't know if they want to bring full capacity or not. So you're having like so many different variables come in because of COVID and an industry being shut down for a year that you're unaware of like exactly how efficient it's going to move when it first comes back.
Yeah. Well, so you guys mentioned direct-to-show shipping, which is a great tip. But if I'm an exhibitor and I want to get my stuff to the shows this year, what are some other tips that I should have for doing that successfully?
As I had mentioned, go in with your eyes wide open. That means educate yourself ahead of time. Don't think that business is going to be going to be usual. Mm-hmm. I would say, just like everything else, you're going to have to plan specifically for what you're going to need or want as the exhibitor. So this means you should have a partner looking out for your best interest when it comes to how do I move my freight in and out of a show. Predominantly, your budgets for moving freight in and out of a show is minuscule. We're talking single-digit percentages when you look at the overall cost of going to a trade show. Yet, for some reason, everybody looks at that cost as an area to save money. So they'll sometimes choose carriers just based on cost. And I would really strongly suggest you look at the entire package you're getting from your logistics provider. Are they reaching out to you ahead of time, explaining these concerns? Because they actually should be concerns. You should have an answer for this. And if you're trying to bid out freight or bid out exhibits to start building for people, this should be something that you sell as a differentiator in your process. Because there's going to be, companies that are thought leaders in the industry who are going to lead with this idea of, hey, we know that the industry is going to get hit with capacity issues, and this is how we've addressed it, as opposed to, being on your heels and I didn't expect this, or this wasn't in the handbook when I started 15 years ago. We want to be a partner for all of our customers in regards to addressing these issues far out in advance. So, not only planning ahead, which is obviously, that's the obvious answer, right? Plan ahead, but it's educate yourself. If you need like a custom plan, reach out to us. Tom has, almost 10 years, almost a decade of trade show experience moving in and out of trade shows. I've had almost 20 years moving in and out of trade shows. All the guys and gals at ARC, they all have lots of experience, both in trade shows domestically and internationally, to help with any questions you as a consumer may have with it. And I know it's a plug for ARC, and it's not meant to be necessarily a plug for us, but it's something that differentiates us. And I would suggest, if you're dealing with someone who doesn't have that, go and find somebody. There's a lot of people in the industry that are very, very good at moving trade show freight. We're one of them. Well, we're not the only one, obviously, but find somebody who cares enough about your freight to go the extra mile and to spend time educating you, maybe before there's a pile of money on the table to talk about. And that's the biggest differentiator in terms of the tips I would have. And Tom, I'm sure you've got a couple of your own that you'd add on the heap, but those are the biggest ones I can see from my vantage point.
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, just remember that it's not a separate network, that your stuff, it's not an individual trade show network that you're moving these things on. And think about all the stuff that has been delayed getting to your house. Think of all the other the supplies throughout all the other Walmarts, everywhere around the world right now that has been delayed. It's all trying to move on the same amount of trucks, same amount of people working the docks. And so with that stuff, when we're going to now throw in whole other shows, all this other stuff on top of people still wanting everything in a day-to-day basis, like you really have to think about, okay, who is actually looking at our best interest? And so, touching on what Andrew said, is like, our job is to do that, is to look ahead, is to look and see, okay, I know this is busy. We need to look at another route for this. It may cost a little bit more, of course, but it's more important to get to the show than not to be there at all. So,
yeah, great point. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, guys, for sharing those tips. Because again, I think that's going to be people are going to have these questions, and hopefully after watching this, they're going to start thinking ahead, like you guys are saying, start processing through some of this stuff so they can communicate to their customers and ultimately provide a better service, right? Which is what we're all here to do, is to provide the best service we can to our customers.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else to throw in, guys, before we move into the next section?
I would just put a bow on it with saying the goal, right? We've talked a lot about maybe nuts and bolts of this, but it's about transparency. That's really the goal. And, I think YRC is they're trying to add something like 1,500 drivers. They've started schools. They're not the only ones. A lot of these LTL companies have started schools. They're trying to handle the capacity as best they can.
I think they see the writing on the wall. I mean, truly, like that. It's coming. Like
exactly. And so with the pricing models they have in place, with how they pay drivers and everything, it's you can pick up any magazine that has anything to do with transportation or read any blog that has to do with it, and you'll quickly see that the industry is struggling still with this driver shortage, which you can believe how much of it you'll want. Because we've had the same shortage for a long period of time, but there is still a problem with like getting butts behind a wheel and having them drive 650 miles a day for you continually, day after day after day after day. The U.S. government, regardless of what political side you sit on, the U.S. government is still paying people good money to sit at home. So it becomes very hard for somebody to want to go get trained in maybe a new field, because we're obviously trying to add new blood to the industry, get trained in a new field that's not going to pay them day one what they're able to make being at home currently. So once we start seeing, in all of logistics, it's all macroeconomics. That's the thing. So the reason why we're talking about trade show is because it's so easy to say, oh, well, this is trade show transportation shipping. But it all feeds back up to a macroeconomics level. And when you're talking about logistics, it goes from micro to macro probably faster than any other industry out there, simply because, Tom touched on it. You're getting some book delivered to your house that's riding on the same network ultimately somewhere as the guy who is getting, bathtubs imported from China. It's hard to imagine, but that network balances all of it. And so, we have to do a better job ultimately as an industry to understand what this means, and regardless of the issues facing us, build up these solutions for our customers, but not do it in a way that's, we're trying to be the savior. Do it in a way that's more about transparency, letting somebody know, hey, this is why we're different, or this is why you should do this thing differently, not because it costs more or it costs less, because costs are relative. What we should be looking at is saying, this is what you're trying to solve for, and this is a solution for it that we know we can deliver 10 out of 10 times, not get lucky 7 out of 10 times, because the 30% is what's going to really screw us, what we're really going to be focused on in terms of solving it. So to just sum it up, to tie it back to transparency, because it is critical that you deal with a partner that's transparent and truly cares about solving the problems that you as an individual entity are faced with.
And Andrew, you mentioned transparency in there, and actually that kind of segues nice into our next section, the company highlight today. I just wanted to talk about ARC's blogs, and we started, I think it was in 2018, we started doing video blogs with the goal of basically helping answer some common shipping questions for our customers and just have a place of reference and for our customers to go, or anybody that's out there looking for common shipping questions. If you go to our website and click blog, you'll see all of our videos. You'll see Tom's smiling face. Andrew's done many of the vlogs for us. And so actually get to see some of the people that work here at ARC explain some of the things that they specialize in. And again, we hope that it'll be a resource for you. And if you guys have any questions that you'd like us to answer, feel free to let us know. And we'd love to shoot a video and answer some of those questions, because if you guys have them, most likely other people out there have them as well.
Absolutely. We love it.
All right, folks. It's our last section. Did you know, March?
These are my favorite. Drop some knowledge bombs on us, Matt. Let's see what you got.
Something
here.
we didn't know.
All right. So last month, Andrew, we did St. Valentine for February. So I rolled with that again in March. St. Patrick. I wanted to give you guys a couple did you know nuggets about St. Patrick and St. Patrick's
hold on.
Day.
Before we jump into this, I've got some skin in the game. I'm like 50% Irish.
There
so
we
this
go.
this is a big deal here.
Okay. He's going to learn a lot about
I got to
himself.
learn about St. Patrick because, I've done the corned beef thing. I got that all down, right? I know about, St. Patrick's Day that way. You got leprechauns and stuff. But, yeah, I'm all ears, man. What do you got for St. Patrick's Day?
Okay, well, did you know that at the age of 16, St. Patrick was actually kidnapped and taken to Ireland? He was kidnapped by a group of Irish raiders who were attacking his family's estate.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
Of course.
he gets there. He works for them for 6 years tending sheep. He finally escapes from the people that kidnapped him, and that's actually when he decided to become a priest. And became,
okay.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting fact I don't think a lot of people know about St. Patrick. Pretty traumatic way to get to Ireland, but that's how he got to Ireland.
Especially at age 16.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And on this day, you mentioned corned beef, Andrew, so I got to throw this one out there too, but people usually eat corned beef and cabbage and they wear green. However, corned beef is not an Irish dish. It's actually an English dish. It's not Irish. So
I guess that does make sense.
it just kind of got adapted as the Irish St. Patrick's Day meal. But
I mean, every
English.
place sells it. And
know.
they've adopted it and they've taken over it.
yeah,
They
exactly.
pillaged it.
All right, so that was Did You Know St. Patrick's Day version. We just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Tom, thanks for joining us this month.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate Tom. I appreciate you jumping on. I think we got to make Tom more of a regular on these
I think
things.
so. Yeah, he's a natural.
Again, I appreciate everyone watching. If you have any questions, like Matt had mentioned, please forward them on over to us because we love answering them. Until next time, have yourselves a great day.
Take care, everyone.
See you guys.